Thank you for coming to my computer show, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I'm just going to get started. This is my first time ever reading from Wildcats, kind of talking about Wildcats in a big group because, my tour stuff and events that I had planned were all canceled for good reason, keeping everybody safe. So I feel nervous. I feel nervous even though I can't see any of you. I feel very nervous, but I'm just going to go for it. So this is Wildcats, and I'll tell you a little bit about the book, and then I'm just going to read a very short portion of it. So, We Are the Wildcats is about a high school varsity girls field hockey team. And the first 24 hours of their brand new season. So the book kicks off um, when the roster for this year's team is announced and follows them for 24 hours. And the book ends as they take the field for their first scrimmage of the year. So there's actually not a ton of sports in the book. It's mostly taking place off the field, but that's the structure. So I have a kind of 24-hour ticking clock on the night. And I also have six rotating points of view. So you're getting sort of perspective on the team from six different characters. And this night is one that is really steeped in tradition. And it's also one that's really important to the girls. This night is also the one part of being a wildcat that the girls are in control of. And so that is a perfect opportunity to tell you about another character in the book, which is the coach, who is a sort of beloved figure, but also the girls are a little scared of him. He's intense, he's young, and he's a very successful field hockey player in his own right. And so he carries a lot of clout, and the girls really adore him. So I'm going to read a little section of the book. This is going to come from the captain of the team, her point of view. Her name is Mel. And Mel is going to tell you a little bit about what this night would normally look like and what she expects it to look like at this point in the book. And the only other thing that you really need to know is that out of every Wildcat on the team, she probably reveres Coach the most. She really sort of idolizes this guy. So just let me tell you what the girls have in store for them, or what they think they have in store for them. Tonight is the first psych up of their brand new season. Coach has always been brilliant at coming up with different ways to keep his field hockey girls close. At the very core of this coaching philosophy is the belief that cultivating bonds off the field translates to bonds on the field. But Coach's implementation of psych ups is undoubtedly his most genius idea. Psych ups are when the entire varsity Wildcat squad is invited to a senior player's house for a team dinner and sleepover before their weekend game. So either a Friday or Saturday night, depending on the schedule. Coach always shows up for the dinner part. And depending on the vibe or what else he has going on, he sometimes sticks around and hangs out for a little while afterward. A good bet is to get him talking about field hockey. Movies are also one of Coach's favorite topics. The girls have fun winding him up about famous movies they haven't seen. He can't believe that they'd rather watch garbage reality TV instead of whatever cinematic masterpiece is currently streaming on Netflix. But it's not like getting stuck talking to one of your parents' friends, because Coach isn't butchering some hugely famous person's name. He listens to the same music you do. He doesn't need someone to explain why certain texts show up in blue bubbles and some in green bubbles. It's just super chill. Either way, before Coach takes off, he'll make a speech about the next day's game and get everyone fired up, not simply to play, but to win. After he leaves, All 20 girls cram themselves into a den or family room and spread out their sleeping bags. Then they watch a movie of the senior host's choosing as a way to unwind, multiple bags of microwave popcorn in orbit. Sometimes they make it to the end credits, but at most psych-ups, the movie gets shut off well before. Coach expects everyone in bed, lights out by 10 o'clock. Every senior holds a psych up at some point during the season, sometimes two, but first night hosting duties always fall to team captain. Mel's parents are going all out tonight. Caterers booked, a white tent erected in the backyard, dozens of white rose arrangements, helium balloon sculptures assembled in wildcat colors. Even still, Mel's psych up will follow the structure of any other until the clock strikes midnight. That's when, at Mel's direction, the Wildcats break Coach's curfew for the first and only time all season to hold their own secret kickoff celebration on their home field underneath the twinkling stars. It's not to undermine his authority. This is in no way a rebellion. If anything, it's about the girls doubling down on the values Coach worked so hard to instill in them: loyalty, pride, grit, team first always. The captains have plenty of opportunities to put their own spin on the festivities: what music they'll listen to, what bonding games they'll play, what late night diner to stuff their faces at afterwards. But the night always, always culminates in a special ceremony where the captain presents each of her teammates with their varsity jersey. And in accepting those jerseys, the girls pledge their hearts to the Wildcats. It's a beautiful thing. So that's just a little bit of setup for how the girls think this night is going to unfold. Obviously, not all goes according to their plans, but that is sort of the setup. So that is We Are the Wildcats. And now I'm gonna have a couple chit chats with my best friend, as if it's just you and me FaceTiming.
Can you guys,
Jenny?
am I? Hi guys. Is everyone like in gallery view, or like how are people looking at this?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna hope that everyone can see. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. This is so fun. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. The first one that all writers get asked, but everyone asks it, so I think people want to know the answer, which is like, where did you get the idea from?
Okay. The idea for Wildcats came randomly to me. I was avoiding working on, I believe it was like the final draft of Stay Sweet, where like I felt like that book was wrapping up, and I, then start kind of dreaming about what might be coming next. I didn't really have any ideas. And so I was just like on the internet looking around at stuff, and I saw an article in the Washington Post, and it was about a high school girls, I think it was a soccer team, and that the soccer team had a kind of late night sort of season starting tradition. Theirs definitely felt more on the side of hazing. In the Wildcats, it's like a much sort of a more beautiful kind of like girl positive celebration. But in this case, they were kind of doing some weird stuff. Not only that, but their male coach, who was kind of young and like handsome, was keeping tabs on the night, and the girls were sort of sending him pictures throughout the night and letting him know all the things they were doing. And some of it was like them in their underwear running around. It was like weird. Well, one of the girls' parents found out about it and complained, and the school ended up firing the coach, and it split the team in half, because half of the team really thought like it was people making a whole mess out of nothing, and other girls saying like, this guy has been a real sort of controlling jerk for many, many years, and like we're sick of it. So I thought it was just an interesting dynamic, and I played high school sports myself, so I thought that would kind of be fun to write about.
I think that seems like control is the key word, right? Where you often see that dynamic of a coach and then their like protege, especially the ones that they kind of like handpick as like special, where you feel like what you're working for is so tied into this person that says that you're special. What was your relationship with your coach on that team that you played on?
I had, well, let me say that I think the way that I wrote Wildcats is very representative of what I liked best about playing sports in high school, which is that I was not very good, but I loved being on a team. I loved like putting on a uniform and making snacks on the bus ride and the mixes that we would play for each other, and like just the camaraderie and like kind of working together, and you had like your enemy teams, like all that stuff was so much fun. Was I like the best player? I wasn't. But I did play varsity softball and volleyball and track. However, I had a really crappy coach when I played a sport, which I won't talk about, but I ended up, he made an example out of me during one game where he yelled at me for something that was stupid. Like, I think I was laying on the bench. The game hadn't even started yet. So I was like laying on the bench. I had my head in somebody's lap and was just like chatting. I remember there was like a school dance that happened sort of the night before. So everybody was just kind of talking about the dance. And I was just chatting. And he decided that he wanted to make an example out of me because I was not like, I don't know, sitting like militantly on the, the sideline or whatever. And so he like grabbed me by the jersey, made me stand up, and he goes, get out of here, leave, go home. Like, you're not playing today. I was so embarrassed. And like, I know why he did it. I know why he picked me, first of all, because I wasn't a top player. So he could sort of like make an example out of me and not like risk losing a game, And he didn't really like me to begin with, but I was so humiliated, and it felt so unjust. And in my Siobhan way, wasn't really thinking it through. I did leave, and I went home and I changed into my regular clothes. And then I came back to the field and I sat in the stands and I heckled him for the game. And then I turned in my uniform and never played again. And like, it was the beginning of the season. I was so excited. And then it sort of robbed me of all the things that I really liked about playing sports. And, I'm so mad about that still. It was nice to sort of kind of undo a little bit of that anger. And this guy was like the same kind of guy where he was really beloved by all the girls and you wanted to be his favorite, and he played favorites all the time. And so he was just like a piece of crap, and it sort of ruined sports for me. So I had a lot of personal like experience to draw on for coach, sadly.
Sorry, I just unmuted myself because it's very loud. At my sister's house right now, I can hear my nephews playing basketball, and I'm asking them to please.
Like, we're just friends chatting. I saw your face when I said that I went back and heckled him, and I could tell that if we had been friends in high school, you might have maybe said, don't. Although I kind of like, that's my favorite part of the story, because I want to show him like I wasn't afraid of him, but also I was so mad. I was so hurt and like too proud to just like, I don't know, go home and cry about it. I was like, no way I'm playing for him.
Then did you ever regret it?
I mean, I was bummed. I did want to continue to play softball or whatever sport that was I was playing at the time, but it was gone. Like, and it just ruined it. It ruined it for me.
That's sad. I'm sorry. I'm also sorry for the sound of the basketball. Can everyone hear that? Can you hear that?
No,
Can you
I
guys
can't.
playing basketball? Hello, can you guys please?
We're
I'm
doing
doing an
it.
important
We're all doing
event.
our best. Oh, look, everyone's saying no or yes. I don't.
Some people do the basketball, some people cannot. I'm really sorry. We're all making do it as best we can under these circumstances. Um, I'm sending my sister like, angry texts as as you're telling me the story. I'm like, can you please?
Well, it's like the intimacy of like we're not at a store. It's great.
Not a story. No, we are. Everyone is where they are, sheltering. Okay, so back to my questions.
Yes. Sorry.
I remember when you wrote the list, which has 8 POVs, which is a lot. That's I think extremely challenging a feat. You were really stressed out the whole way through because it was a lot of story to juggle. So what made you want to go back and try that again?
You're right. Your memory is correct. I was relatively miserable the entire time writing the list. And I think, actually, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I think like at one point I even stopped like showing it. Like whatever I was writing per week, like usually we would share and get feedback. And I was just like so unsure that I was going to be able to pull it off that I almost didn't want to share it with anybody. And the truth is, like, this time I felt like, you know, that was maybe 6 or 7 years later. And I had recently, in the past like 2 years, took a look at the list, read it over again, and thought, like, I wish that I could have one more chance at rewriting, you know, one more pass of that book, because I think I'm better now and I think I could do it better. So I think it was almost like a competitive thing that I had in myself where I knew that I wasn't totally ready for the challenge of the list. I think I pulled it off, but with Wildcats, I felt really ready. And I didn't have that same sort of panicky thing. I knew that the device would work. I knew that I could differentiate the voices. And just with the whole, you know, the structure of the night and, you know, all the things, the working parts of the plot, I knew that I could do it. And so I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it confidently. So it was a really fun challenge. And of course I did have like my miserable moments with it, for sure. But for the most part, it was a really joyous writing experience, one where I felt like I'm ready for this and I'm going to do this story justice, you know?
Which I think that you did.
Thank
I
you.
think everyone will agree.
Thank you.
So wait, then will you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now?
Yes, I am currently drafting my next novel, which will be with Simon and Schuster again, my beloved Simon and Schuster. It has yet to officially be announced, but I will, so I don't want to say too much, but I will say that it is unlike anything I've ever written. It is it's called The Juliet Eclipse. That's the first time I'm saying the title out loud. It's called The Juliet Eclipse. It's unlike anything I've ever written before, and it is about sisters. And I'm really excited for it. I wish that I were a better writer during like Corona times, but so I can't really say when it will be out, but I love this book. It is a total challenge. I'm so excited about it, and I'm really having fun writing. You know, going from a large cast of characters then down to 2, and a real intimate relationship between these 2 sisters. So, oh, I see my sister commenting. Yes, there is a lot of our personal life in there, Brenna. Sorry.
We were just talking a little bit about working during Corona time. So I don't know if you, I find it to be creative work right now is nearly impossible. It's hard to focus, right? Like, how do you have any tips for us? How to focus?
No, live alone. I know that a bunch of my creative writing students at Pitt are here kind of tuning in tonight. And like those guys, dude, I am in awe of. Like, we switched over the semester to online. They take a class with me called Writing Youth Lit 2. It's a generative class. They're producing 3,000 words a week. And I would say, like, the large majority of them are handing in at least 2,000 to 3,000 words a week. Some, like, you know, it'll be like a low week, but they're handing in. They're like moving the ball forward, including having to do other schoolwork and like being back, you know, at your like childhood bedroom and stuff. Like, they are doing so much better than I am doing. And I am like really, really proud of them. And hopefully I'll like slip into a better gear in the next coming weeks. What about you? Like, what do you do? I know
Uh,
I know
I
it does.
the basketball, playing in the kitchen, and screaming children. Well, now I'm an au pair, so I'm doing that. I'm helping take care of my nephews, but I feel like I've had so much work to do. I think that there's one thing like finding time in the day to work. It's another thing trying to sort of turn off all the outside stuff and focus in on like creative work. Like, that's the hard part. I think that it's going to take a minute to really like sink into that, to being able to think creatively and be like free in your mind and not just be turning on the news or like looking at Twitter to see, you know, what's going on and like death tolls and
It's
that kind of thing.
it's so intrusive, you know, like it's really hard to turn the volume down on that completely. So then like what do? You just have to get used to like having it not be a perfect circumstance, like not having that like laser focus that you might otherwise, and just keep going instead of standing still. I don't know. I mean, it's freaking hard.
Well, a lot of questions.
Yeah, Q&A box.
So, I'll just like start with one from
Yeah.
Coco Hart asks, "What is your favorite book that you've each written?"
Oh, what would you say?
I probably would put probably either To All the Boys or Summer I Turned Pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, I mean, they're both trilogies, but like in some ways it just feels like, you know, like three parts, like a triptych, three parts of one big story. So the first one is always like especially special. And you?
I would say it would be a tie between Wildcats and Stay Sweet.
Hmm.
Although I don't know, like the new one, I'm, you know, I always like, I fall in love with whatever the one is that I'm working on too. So now I'm like, ugh, whatever with these things, you know, I want to sort of be in my world with the new manuscript. But I really love Wildcats and I really love Stay Sweet, and both of them I feel like a really nice connection to both of those books. So I would pick those ones. Thanks for the question, Coco Hart.
Um, okay, so here's another one. Matthew Stalford.
Maddie Matt.
Is he one of your students?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maddie Matt says, "I'm interested in YA, but I'm growing increasingly less teenage as the years go by. How do you think of ideas, themes, characters that are relevant to teenagers when writing?"
Fresh face Matt, feeling old. In truth, he did graduate. I don't know. I feel that's a really hard question to ask. I think that actually, if I look at my most recent novels, like Wildcats and Stay Sweet, and even The Last Boy and Girl in the World, I think there's like an adult component to those that, maybe isn't present in my younger work. So I don't know if that's my sign of aging there, that these adult stories are also kind of taking up bandwidth in the books. But in terms of like the core YA mentality, it just feels very like me and my normal voice and my normal existence. I mean, Matt would be able to tell you that in my writing youth lit classes, I'm always like, guys, I'm not that old, right? Like I'm like one of you, basically. I'm like basically in college because I don't feel like a grown up all the time.
No, we're old.
I know that. I know that we are, but
Light on. I feel like I'm dark. Sorry.
well, it's a dark time. Oh, you mean just in general? You mean in lighting?
Better for you guys?
No, that's good.
Okay. So
I don't know. What about you? How do you get your teenage on?
I don't feel. I mean, I always give the same answer to this, but it's true. It's true, which is I don't really feel that my teenage characters are so different than my adult characters. I think it's just people and the human experience, and so doesn't feel difficult to step into that voice because I've had that experience, and
Yeah.
So it still feels fresh to me. I think what's harder is, right, I think it's not so much about getting older, but it's more, I think, about how long you've been doing it in a way. You know what I mean? Because I know plenty of people who came into writing their first book about teens and they were like 50 years old, and it still feels very fresh to them, which is different than I think if you've written a bunch of them, because you're still trying to find new ways to tell story and like examine the teenage experience.
That's true.
Okay, so let's see. Amanda B says, which wildcat is most like you and like Jenny?
I would say, Jenny is very much a captain of our friend group. She is a person who organizes and makes things happen and sets up. And in fact, like thinking about that section that I read and sort of where that rest of that chapter goes, it's all about how much care and consideration the Captain Mel puts into her big psych up night tradition. And Jenny is the same way with writing retreats or vacations. She likes the detail work, she loves the experience, and she loves sort of presenting the experience to everyone. So she's a really great leader in that way, and a great sort of friend to have in that, everything is thought about and the experience is wonderful and memorable, and you're having it with like a really great friend. So I would say Captain Mel is Jenny.
And then for yourself?
For me, I would say probably Phoebe, who is Mel's best friend, as it happens in the book. And she is more of like, a tough girl. She is very physical and competitive, but also really loves the unity of the team. She is not a star on the team. She is more like a sort of supporting cast. And part of her work on the field is to make it so that Mel shines. And she loves that. She has no real ego about it. And she loves seeing her friends have success and loves being a part of that success, even if it's in a small way or in an unacknowledged way. So I would say that I would put myself in that category. As like, I love to cheer on people and I love to give notes on things and I love to help sort of get a win, but I don't have to be like the star of the show either.
Okay. Good question, Amanda B. Now we have one from Maggie who says, you write friendship so well in all your books, Siobhan. How do you start plotting how to write your female friendships?
I don't really plot in that way. It's funny. I feel like plot to me is really about just the A to B to C, events of the story. And as Jenny could definitely attest, I feel like the relationship stuff and the interpersonal stuff is some of the harder work for me, and the stuff that really evolves draft to draft, especially in my first drafts. You would have thought that the Wildcats were just like a bunch of cardboard cutouts kind of like moving around a field. But I think sort of what Jenny said is taking from life. It's I am someone who is blessed with many friends and rich friendships. And some obviously are closer than others. And so I had a really nice, I've always had a really nice well to draw from creatively in terms of crafting friendships for books. So I, really pluck from my real life there.
Okay. Olivia Love says, what was the experience of writing books together like? Did it make your friendship stronger?
It was the best.
Oh, you waiting for me? You're like
I was like, wait, is her silence intimating that it wasn't the best? Okay, it was the best. We basically, I always feel like it's like the best life hack because we got paid to be friends, basically. We wrote, we went away on trips, we published these books that we love. It was so much fun and so nice to work with somebody who you feel like really knows your writing and gets your writing. What would you say?
I would say that we, I think that we work really well together and it's very intuitive. We're kind of sitting in each other's laps as we wrote those books together. And it was just fun to sit there and like dream up characters and story and to go to dinner and just still be talking about story. You know what I mean? So you don't ever have to stop the brainstorming because it's just kind of sort of platform into your relationship, which is great. I think that, I don't know, like, I don't know if I could see myself, no, I don't want to say that because I think I could potentially collaborate on something again. I don't think I could collaborate in a novel with someone again, in the way that I think it's so different than screenwriting, right? Because you have to be we were so mind melded. So that part wasn't not hard for us to do. But I think because we're close and we understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, we could do that together. But I don't think it's the same as writing a screenplay together. Wouldn't you say? Because I think a book has to sound like it's from one voice, like that you're literally like in the palm of the storyteller's hand, and
that's true.
Different than screenwriting is so collaborative and from top to bottom. It's like so many people working on that and giving notes and helping make it better. And like ideally, you've got the best people all on the team. Like someone who's a great costumer or someone who's like great whatever. But like it's very different because we're fulfilling all those tasks in one.
That's so true.
I also think like friendship wise it was good because it was like definitely like a learning experience for both of us too of good times and bad times and like coming through it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's ever easy. I don't think people should lightly go into working with a friend. What do you say, Siobhan? I think it's a big.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the reason why we were able to do it and really enjoy it is because we had been, prior to writing that series together, we'd been reading each other's work and giving notes to each other for years and years and years and years and years. And some of the, sometimes you'll read these partnerships and it feels like it's a relatively new friendship, and I feel, I don't understand how those work. That would be really hard. But I think that our closeness really sort of helped me get a great experience, and like our friendship only amplified that stuff and smoothed the edges where it might otherwise have gotten super bumpy for people who weren't close or are used to being vulnerable in that way.
Siobhan, you want to?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you a question which I just scrolled away from. I'm sorry that I forget the person who asked it, but oh, here we go. Kaylee Langford asks for Jenny. How did you come up with the idea of To All the Boys I've Loved Before?
I used to write love letters, but I never sent them out, and I did keep them in a hat box. And I do have a younger sister. She did not send them out. But I did think about what if someone had sent them out, and what if um, those boys had received it, and then how would I have reacted? What would a character do in that situation? And so that was the inspiration.
You were recently on the Today Show talking about the second movie, and you were talking about something that I thought was really just it like hit me here about how when you were sort of touring for To All the Boys when it first came out, in the early events, you actually brought a letter.
Just the first one, honestly. It was just the launch, just like this is a launch. That was my launch. And I read from one of the letters, and it was honestly so mortifying that I never did it again. I thought it was gonna be a funny little, just a little cute thing to do on the tour. And I don't think when you write something that's intended to be just for yourself and then you share it with other people, I think that is not necessarily a fun experience. I think it speaks to how much, how fresh all those memories are in a way, where as I was reading it and everyone was like smiling and enjoying it, and I felt like all those emotions come back as if I was back to being that age again in a way. I think that embarrassment is one of those emotions where you can think about something that you did that was embarrassing, and it comes flooding right back in a way that other emotions can kind of like lessen over time. Humiliation is very sharp.
Okay, one more question. This one, selfishly, I'm picking it from AJ. Jenny, is Siobhan the Chris to your Laura Jean?
Yes. Siobhan is very Chris-like. Siobhan, do you think that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like to think that I am a goof. I am like the mouth, and I would, I'd much prefer to be the Chris than maybe the Jen. So I feel, I'll happily occupy that role if I influence that at all. I'm very pleased. So I think that's about it, guys. Thank you all so much for coming.